Battle through the heavens, grand world. Chapter 165 Disgusting face. Ka. The sound of the spear breaking resounded in everyone's ears. Xiao Chong couldn't help but tremble. His eyes, which were looking at Xiao Yan, who was surrounded by the crowd, gradually turned into panic. However, the panic disappeared in an instant. Then, endless greed surged into his eyes. He looked at the blue flame ruler in Xiao Yan's hand. This spirit weapon was actually so powerful. He had clearly seen it just now. A foot later, even the captain of the guards, Wang Chong's mid-grade spirit weapon, was shattered. This huge ruler was probably at least a high-tier spirit weapon. It might even be a rare heavenly weapon. Thinking of this, Xiao Cheng's breathing became a little hurried. A heavenly weapon. Even though he was the second young master of Yuanyi City, he had only heard of it but had never seen it before. If he sold it, he could sell it for at least a few million monarch crystals. You bunch of trash. Attack. Capture him. Seeing that several guards were sent flying by Xiao Yan, Xiao Cheng's face turned cold and gloomy. He roared furiously, then he looked at Wang Chong who was standing not far away and said furiously, "Wang Chong. What are you waiting for? Didn't you see that I was injured?" The captain of the guards, Wang Chong, was awakened by Xiao Cheng's furious roar. He looked at Xiao Yan who had unleashed his divine might, came to Xiao Cheng's side, and said with an ugly expression, "Young master, this guy isn't afraid of the reputation of Xiao clan. Could it be that he is a guest that the two lords from Xiao City are talking about?" Xiao Chong was startled when he heard this. He unconsciously swallowed his saliva and gritted his teeth. "Don't worry about him. He was the one who injured me first. Even if it was a guest, it was also him who was in the wrong first." Those two adults had nothing to say. "If anything happened, I will bear it. Go, catch that guy." Wang Chong felt miserable in his heart when he heard that, but he had to listen to Xiao Cheng's orders. Immediately, he hesitantly stepped forward and said loudly, "Is your name Xiao Yan?" When Xiao Yan, who was trying his best to defend against the dozen guards, heard the middle-aged man's question, he immediately understood what the middle-aged man meant. He sneered. Now that he was really angry, if he admitted it now, the battle would be stopped immediately. In that case, he might as well pretend that he didn't hear anything and fight to his heart's content. After making up his mind, Xiao Yan didn't say anything. The blue flame ruler in his hand moved, and in an instant, he took out another opportunity to send another guard flying. Although the Xiao clan's iron guards had been selected by thousands of people, with his rich combat experience, he was still able to easily take down more than 20 people. In just a few moments, he had already sent 5 or 6 people flying. Seeing that Xiao Yan didn't hear him, Wang Chong felt helpless in his heart. Just as he was about to use the Origin Monarch key to shout, his attention was suddenly attracted by Xiao Yan, who was surrounded by the crowd. 8-directional Thunder Ruler. Ever since he had advanced to the third Monarch Spirit, Xiao Yan had never been so relaxed in his battle. Last time, his battle with Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma had made him feel extremely aggrieved. Now was the best time to test out his strength. Without any hesitation, he unleashed the strongest ruler technique, the Monarch skill. A buzzing sound of thunder suddenly resounded in the hall. The golden lightning arcs on the blue flame ruler kept jumping. It gave people a strange feeling. Just as several long spears were about to hit Xiao Yan, the blue flame ruler suddenly slammed into the ground. In an instant, the surface of the ruler was filled with a thunderous force. It was like numerous lightning arcs that easily blocked these spear tips. After that, it suddenly exploded. The huge impact caused several Xiao clan's iron guards to fly backwards with pale faces. Even their iron armors were slightly damaged. Under the 8-directional Thunder Ruler, only 5 or 6 of the dozen people who were attacking Xiao Yan were left. The rest of them were lying on the ground, moaning in pain. The scene of them falling on the ground had shocked hundreds and thousands of people. Xiao Yan was breathing heavily. He casually stuffed a medicine pill into his mouth. Although he had the protection of the Monarch Flame, he had also suffered some injuries. However, Xiao Yan felt extremely excited at this moment, although he didn't have much Origin Monarch Ki left in his body. Hong Long. Wang Chong stared at his subordinates who had been sent flying in all directions. The remaining people who were still standing looked at Xiao Yan with panic for the first time. As Xiao Yan moved forward, they couldn't help but retreat. How is this possible? Xiao Chong looked at the scene in disbelief. The sound of nearly 20 Xiao clan's iron guards groaning in pain was like a heavy hammer pounding on his heart. Seeing Xiao Yan walking towards him, cold sweat broke out on Xiao Cheng's forehead. Xiao Yan, who was walking slowly, suddenly frowned. He put away the blue flame ruler and looked out of the hall. Sounds of footsteps could be heard. A middle-aged man with a dignified expression walked in first. Behind him was a man and a woman. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. Behind the three of them were dozens of iron guards in black armor. Father! Xiao Chong was overjoyed to see the middle-aged man walk in. He hurriedly ran over and narrated Xiaoyan's atrocities with snot and tears. After listening to Xiao Cheng's exaggerated description, the middle-aged man's oppressive gaze swept across the entire hall. Anyone who met his gaze, regardless of whether they were sovereign masters or monarch emperor, could not help but lower their heads, not daring to meet his gaze. When he saw nearly 20 iron guards of Xiao clan lying on the ground moaning, the middle-aged man frowned. Then he looked at Xiao Yan and said in a dignified voice with no sadness or joy, "You were the one who injured them. Do you know what crime it is to attack the people of Xiao clan in Taiching Mansion?" Xiao Yan fearlessly looked into the middle-aged man's eyes and said in a calm voice, "I will hit them." He was naturally a guilty man. No matter where he was, there had to be a rule, right? Hearing Xiao Yan talk to him in such a tone, the middle-aged man's face turned gloomy. He said slowly, "Arrogant brat, what ability do you have to talk about rules with me? In this place, the Xiao clan is the rule." After saying that, he stretched out his hand and clenched it in Xiaoyan's direction. Woo! Xiao Yan felt an invisible force on his neck, and he couldn't breathe. He couldn't help but feel extremely angry in his heart. His son and father were just like that. When he opened his mouth and shut his mouth about the Xiao clan, did he really think that everyone was afraid of the Xiao clan? Swoosh! Xiao Yan stretched out both of his hands. Two flames, one red and one golden, rushed towards the middle-aged man like two fire dragons. Sensing the powerful force of the two flames, the middle-aged man raised his brows. He had no choice but to withdraw the hand that was holding Xiaoyan's neck from the void and push both of his hands forward. In an instant, an invisible force suddenly erupted and dispersed the two fire dragons. He let out a breath. Xiao Yan looked at the middle-aged man and said with a cold smile, "So the rules of the Xiao clan were set by your young master. This desolate has gained a lot of knowledge." Nonsense. Hearing Xiaoyan's words, the middle-aged man's facial expression changed drastically. From the corner of his eye, he glanced at the man and the woman behind him. Then he became furious and said in a cold voice, "How dare you behave atrociously here? I will let you know that the dignity of Xiao clan is not to be violated by anyone." After saying that, the majestic origin monarch Qi in his body surged crazily, ready to launch a fatal attack. "Master of Xiao City, please wait." At this moment, the young man behind the middle-aged man suddenly spoke. When the middle-aged man heard this, he immediately stopped. With a smile on his face, he said, "Young Master Xiao Hao, do you have something to say?" The young man smiled and walked forward. He looked at Xiao Yan with interest and asked, "You said your surname is Xiao. I wonder what your name is." Xiao Yan heard this and smiled in his heart. Just now, after beating up these people, Xiao Yan had noticed the identity of these two young men and women, so he purposely told them. Immediately, his expression did not change as he said, "I, Xiao Yan." Xiao Yan. When the middle-aged man heard this, he frowned and looked at the young man beside him. According to what he knew, the descendants of the elders in Desolate City weren't called Xiao Yan. The young man was delighted upon hearing this. He exchanged a glance with the girl beside him and smiled. Then, he shrugged his shoulders. He said to the middle-aged man, "Xiao City Lord, I'm sorry, but he is the guest we are waiting for. We are going to bring him back to Xiao City. So, I think we should just let this matter go." Chapter end. Hi guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.